Did you know that the course of history was literally changed by some powerful prayers mentioned in the Bible? My name is Don. I'm a sinner saved by grace and I love the Bible. I'm on a mission to root your faith directly in Scripture. Today we're going to talk about the power of prayer. Last week we gave a very brief overview of how to pray and how transformative prayer can be in our own lives. And this week we're going to look at some examples in the Bible of how these heroes that we've read about since Sunday school literally used it to change the course of history. Now I need to preface this by saying that I'm not suggesting that humans can change God's mind. Only God can do that. However, there are times where God is waiting for us to ask for something from Him so that He can do what is actually in His will. I know that's really complicated and it's beyond the scope of this video, but if you'd like me to tackle that, I can do it in another video. Leave me a comment and I will get to researching and figure out how to present that in a more succinct and accessible way. Now, this story is covered in Genesis chapter 18, primarily from verses 16 through 33. Now, most of us probably know that Sodom and Gomorrah was a city in the ancient Bible that was really notorious for particularly their sexual sins. We don't need to get into all of that, but just know that this was really displeasing to God, and to the point where He was ready to just decimate the whole city and everybody that was in it. Now, Abraham, his heart went out for these people when God told him that He was going to do this, and so he almost entered into a negotiation of sorts with God. So in these verses, we see this back and forth where Abraham starts praying to God and starts this negotiation process. He says, hey God, what if I can find 50 righteous people in this city? Will you spare the city if I can do that? And God's like, fine. If you can find 50 people, then I will spare the city. And Abraham is thinking about that, and he can sort of imagine what's going through his head, and he's like, man, I know how bad this city is, and I don't know if I can find 50 people. So then Abraham is like, well, God, what if I can find 45? And God's like, all right, fine. If you can find 45, I won't destroy the city. And this negotiation keeps going on. Abraham finally gets down to 10, and that's kind of where the negotiation stops. And the really sad thing is that in this city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I don't think it's mentioned necessarily how many people actually lived in the city, but it was a big city at the time. So we're probably talking 100,000 people or something like that. Abraham couldn't find 10 righteous people in this whole city. So God was like, well, there you have it. I'm destroying it. Stay away from there because it's about to get leveled. Now, God's original intention was He was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and all of the surrounding cities. So as we find out, God destroys all of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the only people that were saved was Abraham's nephew, Lot. Some angels came and warned Lot about what was going to happen and gave him just enough time to escape the city. So Abraham's prayer really brought out the mercy in God. Now, there was some divine judgment that obviously went down on Sodom and Gomorrah, but the fact that God allowed the angels to come and warn Lot and his family and gave them the opportunity to escape really shows the power of Abraham's prayer and the relationship that he had with God. Next, let's fast forward to Exodus chapter 32. Now, in this chapter, we discover that Moses had been up on Mount Sinai, communing with God, praying. He'd been up there for, I think it was like 30 days or so, and the people were getting really restless at the bottom of the mountain. They're like, where did Moses go? Why isn't he here? And so they went to the high priest Aaron, and they said, God is not with us. We need something to pray to. Make us an idol. And so this is the story of the golden calf, where Aaron collected a bunch of gold from all of the people, earrings, bracelets, etc., smelted those down, and created the image of a golden calf. And the people began worshiping this. And while Moses was still on the mountain, God, obviously knows what's going on, gets really angry, and tells Moses, hey man, you got to get down there and get control of your people because they're worshiping idols. That's not cool. And I'm about to really rain down judgment. So Moses prays to God, and he reminds him of all the promises that God made to Abraham and about multiplying the people and all of this stuff, and really just kind of starts begging for him to temper his anger against the people. God decides to show a little bit of mercy on the people as well, and allows Moses to go down and to take care of the situation. So at this point, Moses goes down off the mountain. He talks to the people, and he's like, oh my gosh, guys, how many times we got to go through this? You've committed a huge sin against God, but please promise me that you're not going to do this anymore, and I will go and try and smooth things over with God on the mountain again. And so clearly everybody agrees. Moses goes up on the mountain again, and he talks to God, and he pleads with him, and essentially offers himself as a sacrifice, if you will, and says, please don't rain judgment down on them. If you need to blot somebody out of your book, then then choose me and blot me out. And God kind of agrees with him, and decides to show mercy on the people at this point. Now, this is really significant because this is the point at which the Israelites were in exile from Egypt. And, what I'm really getting out of those verses is that God was so mad, he was just going to wipe them all out. And you're talking about the whole Jewish population at this point. And had he done that, then the world would have been a much different place. So as you can see, Moses' intercession prayer really helped preserve the Jewish people at this point, and really invoked God's mercy on his chosen people.